Good evening. The Toronto Raptors beat the Houston Rockets 107, 104 in a exciting slash kind of a frightening game, I think. This wasn't one of those games that felt like was necessarily in the hatch or whatever the saying is until kind of read well, I mean, in the beginning, it kind of felt like the Raptors really had something there, and then third quarter, again, this like infamous trend with the Raptors in the third quarter, where Jeff Green and Dylan Brooks just opened season from three for them. That really got them back in the game. Um, Ironically, they had two opportunities to send it to overtime late in the game on threes. Both of them missed. A Holiday three and then a Jeff Green three with like a second left in the game. That would have been, if that would have gone in, that would have gone, like, that would have been on the front page of r/NBA. He had it online. It was a really athletic, like, he kind of jumped to the side and then shot it while he was in the air. And it was online, but it was about, it just kind of glazed the front of the rim or airballed. Couldn't really tell which one, but yeah, it's just like that would have been a pretty wild shot. But more importantly, maybe not so much in the second half, but in the first half, I thought this was the best chemistry that Scottie, RJ, and Quickley had together. There was a bunch of plays where they were on the same side of the floor and they were just using mismatches, like Scottie getting guys to panic in the paint and then kicking it to RJ, who made the next pass to Quickley. Quickly bringing the ball up, passing it to RJ feeding Scottie in the post, Scottie bringing the ball up, feeding to Quickly finding RJ on a cut. Like there was especially in the thing in the second quarter, there was a bunch of sequences like that. And that's been something that I think has really lacked. Like you would really hope that there would be more, especially like Quickly and Scottie. You'd hope there'd be more like two-man stuff. And I thought you saw like more potential execution of that tonight. It kind of went away a little bit in the second half. I thought the offense slipped a little bit in the second half, and the defense did as well. But luckily, this Rockets team, late game execution, it wasn't necessarily, they don't really have, like they're in a position where they don't really have that guy at the end of the game where you're really kind of worried that they're going to take over. And so I think they're one of those teams that are pretty vulnerable, late in games. They don't have that person that you really have to be like, oh shit, there's no even like DeMar character that they're gonna funnel stuff through. It's more of like more of a depth style team, I think, and I think in crunch time in the clutch, it's kind of difficult, to close games like that. But another really weird trend in this one was the bench versus the starters, and I think this had a little bit of a Dennis Schroeder effect, which we can talk about the trade deadline, only a day removed from that. But yeah, the bench was just really messy in this one. It just really felt like it was missing something, and the plus minuses like really told the story because the bench guys on the Raptors just got, like, every starter except for Scottie, he was -2, but he played a bunch of different lineups, didn't really count that. But all the starters are a plus, all the bench guys are a minus. And the Bruce Brown had a interesting, adventurous game. He had a couple kind of not quite McDaniels-esque type plays, but I'd say a couple Precious type plays, just a couple of very odd drives and like hook shots. He was 5 for 12, -13 tonight. Just doing lots of just random bizarre stuff. Like he did look a little bit like Precious tonight, and I don't know if he needed 20. I don't know if he needed 22 minutes from him. He was really rough. Wara really rough. Just looked really shaky with the ball, and his defense was lacking. And those lineups where it was like, I didn't think Porter played that poorly, but those lineups where it was like Porter, Brown, and Wara that was on the floor, those guys just got absolutely smoked. And then the Rockets bench guys are like +18, +15, +10. It was really the starters for the Raptors. I thought this was Quickley's probably most impactful game, one of the top maybe two impactful games. Only 2 assists tonight, which is kind of weird. Normally he gets like 9 or 10, but 25 points, 4 for 9 from three. And he just seemed like he was more aggressive tonight than normal, and I think that's why the assist numbers are kind of down. So maybe find a balance with that. Definitely not Scottie's best offensive game. 13 points, 4 for 16 from the field. I thought a few of his, like, you want him to be aggressive, but I thought a few of his shots were kind of forced, and forced in the sense of just like going into traffic a little bit, not advantageously, and then it's kind of been an ongoing story where he kind of takes himself out of the play in a lot of those too. Like he'll have kind of a drive into traffic and then he'll be talking to the ref, which is whatever, fine. But a lot of the time he kind of like hits double hard because like it misses and then the other team gets like a 5-on-4. Bruce Brown, by the way, yeah, pretty crazy. Smoked. Quickley could have had 3 assists, but Bruce Brown, really crazy pass by Quickley. He left his feet. I thought it was like a mistake, but then he just finds a cutting Bruce Brown, who I don't know how he smoked that layup. But then it was also Jakob Hurtl's maybe best game or most impactful game as a Raptor. 16 points, 11 rebounds, 3 steals, 6 blocks. He was really 7 for 11 from the field, but especially like on defense, he was just, 6 blocks is 6 blocks like that. 6 blocks and 3 steals, so 9 stocks. He was in a different. He seemed like he was in a different groove. It reminds me of the Detroit game that they lost, where he was really good defensively, but. Or was that the Detroit game where they won? Did they beat Detroit? Obviously, only people only remember the loss, but did they also beat Detroit early in the year? I just remember Jakob smoking Detroit one game, but he was really impactful on both sides of the floor, and him and Quickley have really good chemistry out in the perimeter with the pick and roll. Like Quickley isn't having to do a lot of putting his fist up and calling Jakob over and doing a lot of hand signals and all that stuff. They play off each other really naturally. It doesn't really have to be a ton of kind of outward communication. They seem to have kind of figured out like where each other is. I think for Quickley, like it makes it a little bit easier in the pick and roll because you know that Jakob is not going to be popping. Maybe 1 every 10 he'll pop for like not if you're way out the 3-point line, but if you're in closer, he might pop for like a little push shot. His push shots do look kind of funny. He missed a few of them tonight. When they miss, they do look a bit goofy, but that's really the only time that he's going to be popping. So if you're rolling every other time, then it makes it a little bit easier to kind of know where the guy's going, and then Jakob will often like pass out of those as well because sometimes he's far away from the basket. But I just think that they're a good duo on the perimeter. I'd like to see Scottie do a little bit more, like him with Scottie doing more of that too, with Scottie as the screener. But yeah, him and Jakob, you can just kind of tell when two players just kind of feed off of each other. Like they kind of you can just tell by watching it that they kind of know, they trust each other, they know where each other is, they know what each other wants to do, and Quickley doesn't have to do anything or like go out of his way to get Jakob's attention, or it's just like they just kind of read each other. Jakob knows when to come over, when to get out of the way. So yeah, that's an important dynamic. Obviously, Jakob was brought into play with Fred, who didn't play tonight but was in attendance. Little tribute video for Fred. Kind of waved at the crowd. Very very sentimental and stuff. But yeah, so I think with the benches, it just looked really disorganized. Like I think with guys like Grady, Wara, Jonte to a certain extent, maybe not Bruce Brown, but a lot of these bench guys. Again, I do not know what the Boucher situation is. another DMP tonight, but they didn't trade him. I don't know. It doesn't really, but whatever. That you know. But I think these bench guys. I think the Schroeder thing is like kind of weird. I think there's definitely a lot more to that behind the scenes that we'll probably never know about. But it's pretty bizarre that like there's kind of two conspiracy theories that make sense. I don't know if they're conspiracy theories, but they're conspiracy theories in the sense that they're not confirmed by any sources and probably never would be confirmed by any sources. But because like Dennis Schroeder he's not the most amazing fit on this team, but it's like they brought in Kelly Olynyk, who's like Dennis Schroeder's age. So it's not like they're totally going younger. I think there's like more. I think there's more to this, and like one of the theories is Darko just like kind of refused to use Dennis properly. I think Dennis is a really good bench player and a good bench contributor, but Dennis just had closing games penciled in for him a lot of the time, and it just seemed like he was getting so many more opportunities. I talked about this quite a bit on the post game shows. Like it just seems like an automatic, like, oh yeah, we're putting Dennis in. It doesn't matter if Gary's really hot or Grady's really hot or guard or RJ sometimes or Quickley or whatever. It's like Dennis is coming back in, and Dennis is going to be, if Dennis and Quickley are on the floor. I made a video about Quickley and Scottie, and then at the end of it I did a little thing about Dennis and Quickley and how they both kind of wanted the ball and they both thought they should have the ball, and when each other had the ball they were both kind of like, what's going on? So obviously there's a pretty big disconnect. Dennis stopped putting out YouTube content the week that he started coming off the bench, and there's been multiple reports that he was really pissed about coming off the bench. So that's going to factor into it. I guess, did they just really not want that energy? Maybe he was, I will create an environment so toxic if he was putting out stuff like that. But just a really weird situation where you trade for Dinwiddie and then you just buy him out, or waive him. I don't know, waive buyout. I need to learn more about how that stuff works. But essentially, you're just dumping Dennis, and that doesn't really make sense to me. But it also didn't make sense to me how they were using him. So I think he would have been useful as like a 17-minute a night guy with the bench units, playing with some of these younger shooting guards or wings like Wara, Grady, or centers like Porter. But so I guess in a lot of these lineups, there's just going to be like point guardless, or so yeah. I don't know. That was kind of a weird trade. I do like the Olynyk acquisition. Abaji, I still don't really know enough about but obviously it's a flyer on a former lottery pick, which this front office never seems to turn their nose up at, which, you got to ask the question, are they going to go for Killian Hayes? I mean, look at all of the reverberation projects the Raptors have tried to have with these lottery picks. You got, Stanley Johnson, DJ Wilson, Josh Jackson, Alex Len. There's been so many, like I can't even, it's become a bit of like a running Justice Winslow. It's becoming a bit of an ongoing thing. So I don't know. I doubt that they will, but I mean, have to like ask the question. But yeah, that was a pretty funny development. But I think the Olynyk trade really makes sense. This ad will go away in a sec. Don't ever watch whatever show that was. Just out of principle, don't ever watch it. I'm not in control of these things. I think the thing with Olynyk is, you see the potential of a Jonte Porter, and like, no disrespect to Jonte Porter, but his upside is probably Kelly Olynyk. So if I don't understand why they weren't playing tonight. I guess there's some physical or some medical thing they have to pass or whatever. They just wanted to be at the game. But I think it really makes a lot of sense around Scottie, and I'll be really interested to see how they leverage their chemistry together, because obviously Olynyk, who I've told the story a couple of times, but famously I almost had to guard in high school at one point, but it's another story. I'll tell that later again for like the 37th time. But I'll be interested to see what they do. Kind of especially, I'm especially curious to see what they do on the perimeter. Like talked about how Quickley and Pirtle have really good chemistry on the perimeter. I could see Scottie and Kelly Olynyk kind of doing the same thing. They're both really good passers. Kelly can shoot the three. Scottie can shoot the three. So I think that combination of stuff with their size as well could be fun. Obviously as well in the post. And I think they could have chemistry. There could be a bit of, sometimes I think in certain lineups there could be a little bit of like, because they're both kind of like tall guys who like to be the hub. But I think with Darko's system, I think you can have multiple guys like that. It's just kind of a matter of where you put them on the floor. Probably want to space them out a little bit, but then I think there is also potential for them to find some chemistry, on beyond 23 feet. And this is another. But like Bob Webster said that, they're trying to get, younger, more exciting. And, at the start of this year, like you have to give the Raptors front office, credit. Start of this year, they were 30th in the league in 3-point percentage. Last time I checked, they were 20th. So to jump 10 spots in, half a season, if you stay on that trajectory and you just got another guy in Kelly Olynyk who is a good 3-point shooter, they really have changed like the structure and the dynamic of the team in a pretty profound way. If you zoom out, I mean, I think a lot of people, including myself, I'm not saying I would have traded Chris Boucher, but if you're not playing Chris Boucher, I don't understand the keeping of Chris Boucher. I think I kind of understand the Bruce Brown a little bit, although him tonight he's had a few games where it's been really rough, but I just assume that the first round pick that was rumored or whatever was on the table was probably only from this upcoming draft, and the Raptors thought like, okay, if they wait, he has another year in his contract, so they could trade him for a future pick. I guess that kind of makes sense. But for the rest of the year, it's kind of an awkward situation. I mean, he obviously, or I guess not obviously, but it doesn't really seem like he's like a part of the team or whatever in terms of like the long-term view. Kind of a weird journey for him. I don't know if it's a lesson. I don't know if he regrets anything, but definitely could have stayed in Denver for a little bit less money. And he's like, oh, go to the Pacers. And then it's like, all right, buddy. Because you never really know what's going to happen in the NBA. You don't really know how this stuff works. Like you leave an incredible situation in Denver. You go to the Pacers, where it seems like a good situation, but then NBA is kind of crazy. I guess he could get traded if he was on Denver as well, but it's probably a little bit less likely. And now you're on the 12th seed. You got a really thin handlebar mustache, and you're smoking absolutely wide open layups from really nice passes from Emmanuel Quickley. So a bit of a odd situation for him. I think with Kelly Olynyk, it's probably a really good situation. Like A, you're coming home. B, you kind of been on these teams for a little bit. You've been on the Jazz. You've been on the Pistons, the Rockets. I think it's a little bit more difficult to come from winning the championship 6 months ago and then going to like the 12th seed. But yeah, what do people think in the chat about the deadline, the game tonight? I guess how does the Olynyk addition affect the Jonte Porter minutes? He kind of got injured at a really bad time because now that he's healthy and coming back, his minutes are probably going to get majorly cut. I didn't think he was that great tonight. He played 11 minutes tonight, so once Olynyk is in there, I don't really know. And that's a night that Boucher didn't play anything. I don't know if Pirtle's going to play 37 minutes all the time, but yeah, a really good. Again, I already said it, but what did you guys think of Jakob tonight? I thought he found like a whole different gear. Pizza party almost here, says Mazar. One more game. Have they won 2 in a row? Have they won 2 in a row, or is it just one? I've lost track, but hey, that is really exciting. And then yeah, did you guys notice So I start at like 2:28 of the second quarter. Um, that's when I think it was like the best, I guess, barbecue. Scottie, Quickley, and Barrett. That was probably their best sequence. I think it was. And the cool thing about, there was a couple plays in the second quarter. Like, I mean, chemistry develops differently with every player. Like, every situation's different. Like before, I mentioned how Quickley and Pirtle have this kind of like unspoken chemistry out on the perimeter. I thought it was really cool. Tonight you saw Barrett, Quickley, and Scottie really communicating like really loudly to get each other the ball when necessary. Like when Scottie had a mismatch in the post, they were feeding it to him. Houston was collapsing on Scottie, and then Scottie was finding Quickley and Barrett. And then if there was a closeout, they were doing the extra pass either to each other or somebody else. And there was probably 4 or 5 of those sequences where they kind of looked like they had been playing with each other for a long time. And you just haven't seen that as much as you would like. But it's a, you know, it's a development. That's the whole like development trajectory. So, you know, there's going to be, you know, this is the Houston Rockets. This is the mirror image of the Raptors. So this is the 12th seed in the Western Conference. I think obviously a more skilled team would have taken advantage of the comeback, and the Rockets weren't. But you know, still, it's like I think with this team now, you're basically forced into development. Like there's no. I mean, you know, thank you for your services, Thad Young. You had a few games there where it was definitely put your effort out there, but you really have like taken the. Like there's been a lot of and this is where it kind of becomes a conspiracy. I do think I do think the Dennis Darko situation was a little weird. I think there's something maybe again that, like, I don't have any sources on this, but I don't know. I think if either Dennis was used differently, or is he that much of a pain in the ass, or potential pain in the ass, where it's like, we just have to get this guy the fuck out of here, even if it means just kind of like eating it for nothing. Because you would think that you could get a little bit for Dennis in a trade, but to just get Dinwiddie and then just be like, whatever. I don't know. It seems like they maybe could have got draft picks or something, but it also kind of feels like with that deal, it was maybe something a little bit more sudden, because I don't think that's like a great deal for the Raptors. And Dennis was a player who was talked about. You know, the Timberwolves were apparently interested in him. Like you could see other teams being interested in him. So maybe it was kind of a bit of a last minute type thing. But just something about it like doesn't really seem to make sense or add up. But I guess the kind of positive is now you really don't have. You know, Bruce Brown not really developing. You could say Pirtle not really developing, or Olynyk not really developing, but I there's a lot less ways now for Darko to kind of play a win now style of basketball, which I don't think you really necessarily want to do when you're tanking. And again, with the whole tanking thing, like you're not actively. There's different types of tanking. There isn't just like tanking as a umbrella. Like there's different styles. Like if you just come into the season being like, yeah, we're going to lose as many games as possible, that's our goal, that's a whole different tank than like, this is the situation where we're at, we're the 12th seed, we're in the middle of a rebuild, we have guys that we want to move on from a different era. There's really no point in trying to put the most winningest lineups out every moment of every game. We're just going to develop our guys and see where the chips fall. That's completely different than just being like, fuck it, we're going to lose every game at the start of the year. That's completely different. It's like, I don't know, like unethical and ethical tanking, I guess. So I guess I'm not really on either side of that argument. Somewhere in the middle. I don't know. That's a whole other topic. But yeah, I would say that the main thing, I guess, about this team that's kind of concerning is these third quarter lapses happen. Like, I don't know, 10 of the last 12 games, they've just been absolutely killed in the third quarter. And to me, what that says is a lack of adjustments at halftime. Like they're not they're not adjusting, or they are adjusting, but the other team is adjusting a little bit more. And like you again in this game, you saw in the first half, I thought that chemistry with Scottie, RJ, and Quickley was really strong, especially in the second quarter. And then in the third quarter, it just kind of like tightened up a little bit. Guys, it seems like got a little bit stiffer, a little bit more. You can kind of feel the energy shifting towards the Rockets' favor, and in conjunction with that, with the offense getting just a little bit tighter, in a bad way. I also thought the defense kind of slipped because, a bunch of those threes, like Jeff Green, Dylan Brooks especially, a bunch of those threes were wide open, either in transition or the Raptors collapsing in the paint and then doing kind of half-assed or slow closeouts to guys who were just wide fucking open. And if the Rockets weren't open, they weren't hitting their threes. I think out of the threes that the Rockets hit, they were pretty much all open. And luckily at the end of the game, they had two threes, which, what did they shoot from three tonight? They were hitting, I'll read some of the chats in a sec, but the Rockets were hitting threes at a pretty good clip tonight, it felt like. 15 for 36, they're 41.7% from three. Out of those 15 makes, I think 9 or 10 of them were open. And luckily at the end, Holiday's three was contested, and then Jeff Green's three was it was contested, but he kind of hopped over to the side, made himself open, but then he was just in such a weird, that was like a Luka shot, you're just kind of like off one foot, really weird position. On a shot like that, you have to shoot it completely different because you don't really have strength from your leg. You have to kind of use all arms. This ad will be over in a sec. I'm not in control of this. Don't ever shop at this place. They probably potentially do horrible things. Sometimes I watch commercials on mute just to see the edits, but that's about it. Okay, we're done with that. Pain is over. What are people saying in the chat? R.I.P. Thad. The Nets waived him. Did the Nets waive? Oh, they did. There's been so many like, it's funny, like no one really of big names was traded in the deadline, but I still feel like there was 87 trades and a million people getting waived, and like, so yeah, that does suck about Thad. On the other hand, I'm, I guess, a little relieved because I would go on here and rant about the Thad Young small ball center thing because it's just like every night pretty much. There's a few games where he was effective, but pretty much every night it was like 22 minutes minus 19, and it's like, why is this guy playing over Jonte Porter or Chris Boucher? Or just like, it just didn't really make sense. And two coaches did it, Nick Nurse and Darko, so I thought I was going crazy. So I do like that, but yeah, RIP to that. RIP to Otto. We're gonna miss those 14 three balls he hit. He hit 6 in his first year, 8 in his second year. Really gonna miss that. McDaniels, I won like every McDaniels game. I'm like, is that the last we see of McDaniels? I think after the Pelicans game, which might be the next Raptor Moments episode, Bobby Webster went on the Raptors show today, which could definitely be an episode. Cut that up a little bit. The vertical aspect ratio is fun, but I think I might have to do a McDaniels video because him in that Pelicans game, I just went back and watched some of the clips. I don't know how you ever play him in a game after that. Like, it wasn't even the fact. It's not even the fact that he's shooting 21% from three and 33% from the field. It's just like giving a turnover or giving up a turnover, and then he doesn't just like walk, or he like runs. It's so weird. I need to like, and there's multiple plays like this where he like throws like a wing to guard pass that's just like anyone in the crowd could like read that, and then it gets picked off. Like OG used to get all those types of kind of picks all the time. And he'll like chase, like McDaniels will like chase. I didn't notice those live. That's why I'm saying this now, but I went back and watched the tape. And he'll like run back, and then he'll kind of like start jogging, and then he'll sprint and then jog and then sprint and then jog. And then he'll like kind of like move his body around like weird as he's running. And I'm like, is this guy like drunk driving? Like, he looks like Andre Drummond in transition, like in the open court. It's just like, So yeah, I don't know. Have we seen the last? Because now you add again, like kind of like with the OG trade, you're adding more players like into the rotation. I guess if Abaji is probably going to be in the rotation immediately, I would kind of hope, and then Olynyk will be in the rotation immediately. So you're getting kind of 2 for 1 because Otto was, I mean, other than the 14 threes, I wasn't really doing a whole lot. That's another one. That's another one with along with Dennis where it's just like what happened there? Like what? Because like with Dennis, it was like yeah, he seems like a good guy off the bench. Like sure, Darko relies on him a little bit too much, but in general seems to be whatever. But you know, either props to the front office or props to Dennis for um, you know doing whatever he maybe threatened to do or you know create an environment so toxic. But yeah, kind of that might be. And with Dennis, like I don't know if people remember this, but Dennis leaked out that LeBron like didn't want to get vaccinated. I don't know if people remember that. It was in a German newspaper. That was like a huge story in like one of the 2021 years, one of those fucking stupid years. But yeah, I think Dennis is the type where like he'll be in like Dusseldorf this summer or something. And he'll just be like talking to some reporter and he'll be like, yeah, you know, Grady Dick didn't let me spiritually express myself and be my own man. I was he'll have some, you know, the Darko, or no, he won't say anything about Darko, but maybe the Noah shooting system will get thrown under the bus. Like there's some people, maybe the Raptors show will get thrown under the bus, but I could see there be some fireworks, you know, but nice for Dennis. He's in Brooklyn now, the podcaster, content creator mecca of the world. So hopefully he returns to making his YouTube content, which he stopped making the last week of December, which coincides with him coming off the bench, which we've now seen in multiple reports he was very unhappy with coming off the bench. I don't know if people remember, but the first 30 fucking games of the year, he was penciled into the starting lineup, despite it being their 11th most effective lineup. And just game after game, they would just get shelled. And yeah, I guess he really took poorly to that, which is kind of funny because, you know, people, you know, like myself or whatever, like, oh, Dennis, you know, it seems like, but I mean, no, none of us really know what happens behind closed doors. So that's why, you know, a lot of it just becomes conspiracy or conjecture because it's like, who really knows? You know, the whole narrative was like, oh yeah, he's a really great vet. He's really, really solid. You know, he accepts his role. He's been in the league for a long time. He knows what's up. He's happy coming off the bench. He's happy starting. And then it kind of comes out that like, no, maybe not. But I mean, this is stuff I'm like curious about, and this is stuff that you'll never get an answer for. You just have to kind of make up your own theory in your head. But I wonder if any of how Darko would rely on him like played into that at all. If they just kind of we're just gonna overwrite you. We're just gonna say, and same with that at Small Ball Center. It's like we're just gonna step in here, and get rid of this. So. Yeah, the lot more development, guys, and I think in a way, this is actually a smart point. I haven't heard anybody bring this up. I just congratulate myself for having this cogent fucking thought that just went through my brain. I think Kelly actually replaces quite a bit of what Dennis does. Like Kelly's a really good playmaker. I mean. Grew up a point guard. I mean, he played for some Scarborough. Is that how you say it? Scarborough. He played for a Scarborough team, and then moved out west to Kamloops. I think in grade 8 or 9, he moved to BC. People knew him as Kelly O, 6'7" point guard. You'd read about him. I had a newspaper route back in the day. You'd read about it in the sports section, the local newspaper. But he grew up playing point guard, and you could see it when he's playing, you know, in the NBA or FIBA or whatever. Probably even more so with FIBA, where he's kind of like that. He you know, like Jonte Porter being, being the what am I trying to say? I don't know. evolution. If if you kind of expand Jonte Porter out and make him larger, what the fuck am I saying? Kelly Olynyk is like a really like advanced long version of Jonte Porter. Like Kelly Olynyk is like a Jonte Porter who's been playing in the NBA for like 8 years. And I think that because he has so much like guard skill, I think Olynyk even more so than Porter because of that kind of increased guard skill that he has. If he was growing up today, like if Kelly Olynyk was like 17 right now and he was this, in high school 6'7" point guard, they probably wouldn't have slotted him to the center. Like he probably would have stayed a point guard in today's NBA, or like who knows. But he's kind of an interesting arc. He's a unique player for that, in that sense, where you grow up playing point guard, you're going to have a lot of those inclinations to be a playmaker. So I think, he'll probably be playing in a lot of the bench units. And I think he can probably replace a lot of what Dennis provides in terms of playmaking and creation, even around the perimeter. So I wonder if that factored into it a little bit too, where it's like this team has no point guards or didn't have as many point guards as you would like. Maybe it's kind of been the story. Obviously, you got Quickley now, but still, like the point guard depth is still kind of, or the traditional point guard depth. I mean, you could throw Scottie at any position pretty much. So I think all in all, I guess I like the moves all in all from the deadline. A couple, there's still, I guess with any team, there's like questions. The Boucher situation is just odd to me. I thought he was a DMP because they were keeping him for like trade, like, in case they were going to, trade him, want him getting injured. And then he ends up playing the entire fourth quarter of the game right before the deadline. So it's like, okay, what's going on here? And now the deadline has passed and he's a DMP. So I don't know. I'll always be fascinated to hear what actually happens behind the scenes, but we'll never know. I don't really think Boucher is like if you put Darko in a lab and you're like, okay, you get to make all these players. I don't know the Boucher. I don't know if the Boucher archetype would be up there in terms of priority. But yeah, I mean, the overall, I think main topic of this game was the Scottie, RJ, Quickley. I thought all three of them played really well together. And yeah, I thought I think RJ, continues, if 0 was my expectation for like Quickley and RJ, I think in general, probably out of like 10, I'd maybe be like -2 Quickley and like +6 with RJ. So it still ends up being like a +4, just in terms of kind of what I expected from them coming onto the team. And because Quickley's had, I would say, a concerning amount of quiet games, but like a noticeable amount of really kind of quiet games. Not tonight, obviously. He was great tonight, really impactful. Not the most efficient shooting night, but I thought he played a really impactful. Like when him and Barrett weren't on the floor, that's when Houston went on so many of their runs, and that's why they were like +25 and the bench was like -15. Like Rockets start out the second quarter, they go on a 13-2 run with no Barrett and Quickley out there. Raps then go on a 7-0 run and a 12-3 run in that quarter after Quickley and Barrett come back onto the floor. So it's just night and day with them being on the floor, being off the floor. And those bench units, I think they did get kind of killed without like a natural facilitator, because obviously Scottie can't play 48 minutes with the starters on the bench. But yeah, so it's be interesting to see what Olynyk brings to the bench units. I think he would have really helped on a night like tonight, especially when the offense gets a little bit sluggish. I think Wara, that's one thing I've kind of noticed from him, is maybe a little dribbly, a little bit kind of like not quite sure, a bit unassertive. I'd say Grady does not have that problem. Grady, not a mind-blowing game tonight, but still somewhat positive. But the thing that's really nice with Grady is like he's not wasting anybody's time. He's not like he's really not taking away a whole lot because he's making decisions like lightning quick. He's passing it immediately, swinging the ball really well. Whereas like Wara, it can kind of slow down for him. It gets a bit sloggy. He's had a couple games now where he's just looked a little bit off. And then Bruce Brown, I think his first game was good. He had another good game. And then like tonight, it just kind of looked like he was on a bit of another planet. Defensively, I thought a few of those Rockets threes were him late on the rotations too. And offensively, just he made one kind of circus shot where he got the end one, but 5 for 12 and just too many like just weird off balance like Precious Achua type shots. I just was not feeling that. But more importantly, Quickley, Barrett, Scottie. If I do the math in my head quickly, no pun intended, that is 25, 38, and plus 50. They were plus 59 tonight, the three of them. Plus 59 in a game where you won by 3. So yeah, it was like two different teams tonight, night and day with those guys on the floor versus not. So yeah, hopefully the new guys can fill out that bench a little bit. I think the starting unit has generally been trending upwards. So someone says the arena got really loud, which is cool. With Fred, I like that. Pill Cosby, Jesus. Where's Drake these days? Yeah, who cares? Ring Papa, probably Pirtle. Lyle Ugleman. That's a great name. Gary 2 for 11 from the field, but plus 17 is a neat stat. Yeah, I forgot to mention him. He was he had like a weird Gary game where he was like he had like a Nick Nurse Gary game where he had 4 steals. They were all in the first half, but yeah, he was a menace on defense. Yeah, only 2 for 11. But plus 17, I mean, a lot of that is the lineups he was out there with. Like, he was out there in a lot of the Barnes, Barrett, Quickley combo. I guess I just call them barbecue or BBQ. I think he benefited a little bit. I think that might be a little bit misleading, the single game plus minus. I mean, he was great on the defensive end. Sometimes single game plus minuses can be deceiving. Sometimes they're not. Jordan Wara minus 12 in 7 minutes. Like, that kind of does check out. On defense, he was really just not doing a whole lot for you. And then on offense, 0 points, 0 for 2. So sometimes it tells a story, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, Gary only 2 for 8 from 3 tonight too, which is kind of rough. But I like that he's getting up 8 threes. 17th highest 3-point percentage in the NBA. You want him taking threes, and if he can benefit from the Barrett, Quickley, Scottie combo, as if he's going to be on the floor with them in a lot of those situations, which I think makes sense because all 3 of those guys like to drive. So Scottie, I would say probably Quickley actually it's hard to, that's kind of a dumb question, hypothetical question, but like, who likes to drive the most? Maybe it's RJ. But all 3 of them like to drive. All 3 of them like to get downhill quickly into his floater game. RJ a little bit more towards the rim, and then Scottie kind of from anywhere. But they all like to get downhill. And then if you've got Gary along there with them, he's going to provide spacing because, if you have the 17th highest 3-point percentage in the NBA, teams are going to be like, oh, fuck, like you can't just leave that guy open. So if you've got all those guys on the floor together, I mean, that is a lot of guards, but whatever, it's the new NBA. So if you've got all those guys on the floor together, there's a lot of space there, and Gary can kind of bring one of those defenders away from the traffic, kind of make things unclogged. And then if you've got Olynyk, just kind of spitballing here, you throw Olynyk into that, you've got even more spacing. That's actually really that's a fun lineup. I just thought of that. So you'd have Scottie, Quickley, Barrett, Gary, and Olynyk. That would be a fun lineup. Not saying you start that lineup, but that could be a fun lineup to play with because that's a lot of spacing, guys who can drive. That's like that's a balanced lineup too. I like that lineup. Write that down, Darko. Write that down. Somebody write that down for me. Scottie, Quickley, Barrett, Gary, Olenek. Write that. Someone write that. I'm gonna write that down. I remember that one. People talking about Drake. What's the deal with Drake? Like, what's the allure? I don't get it. What's the, like, why is he better than like MF Doom? What's the deal? What's going on with Drake? Is he better than Big L? Like, is he better than Lord Infamous? You know? Is he better than Atmosphere? What's going on with Drake? Any other last?
Is he better?
Any last words in the chats? But yeah, so Raptors' next game is really playing next. Let's have a look at this. Kings are playing the Nuggets right now. That's kind of fun. Good Nuggets-Lakers game last night. But next up, the Toronto Raptors play the Cleveland Cavaliers as the East runs through Cleveland tomorrow at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. The Cavs are what, like 14-1 in their last 15? You get Dean Wade in Paris. I regret not tweeting that out just when the Cavs were in Paris for that game. I think against the Wolves. Just thinking of Dean Wade in Paris. They've got Matt Devlin's Akoru all ready to go. But yeah, Cleveland kind of a weird random team to just go off. Don't know how sustainable it is, but would love to see them against the Knicks in the first round. Another rematch, see if the lights get too bright. But yeah, I feel like the Raptors play the Cavs pretty well the last few years. I think they've kind of seems like a team they've lined up against pretty well. I mean, not the in the more recent years. I don't mean the 2010 years. Definitely not. But yeah, little doubleheader action. But yeah, the stars that I have for this game are the Scottie. I got Scottie Grady 2-man games too. I don't remember that off the top of my head. 58 seconds left in the first quarter. I have a star. Star is a big deal. If I put a star next to something, that's a big deal. I have star Scottie and Grady 2-man game. What did they do? I'm trying to remember. I think Grady was in the corner. Scottie was above. Fuck, I'll have to go back and look at that. But there's something with Scottie and Grady, and then a bunch of plays in the second quarter with the three barbecue guys. Where the fuck is Randy's barbecue? There should be some make a trailer park. If they can make a Fred montage video, I can make a Quickley Barrett Scottie barbecue Randy Leahy Trailer Park Boys mashup. We'll figure that shit out. So yeah, I'm here in Dublin, where I guess it's still Christmas. So I'm gonna go check out this bar behind me. Some bar or whatever in Dublin, I guess. And yeah, the Raptors win by 3. It was a tight one. They were up pretty big in the start, but then their infamous third quarter blunders took hold. It's like an addiction. But then ultimately, the Rockets shoot like 42% from 3. They really go off. Jeff Green, Dylan Brooks cooking. A little bit of Jabari cooking too. I think, actually, now that I said that out loud, I need to double check that because I might be totally lying to you. I am completely lying to you. He had 12 points, but and Jeff Green only had 7, but they were timely. Brooks with 20. They were hitting open threes, And then, yeah, Cam Whitmore. I mean, 3 for 5 from three. I think he did most of his damage in the first half. He looks really good. Like his three is really smooth. Like it's really quick. And if I remember correctly, like he was always really good going downhill in college. But I don't think the three ball was like the biggest strength of his. But he looks really comfortable shooting threes. Really quick release, really natural looking shot. His free throw is like impeccable as well, and it looks the exact same as his three ball. He looks he's like definitely one of their more exciting young prospects. Yeah, Bullock with the cool hair, that was probably the most like work I've seen this year. Kind of remember when Jeremy Sohan had the like best Western lobby carpet do on like or like conference room carpet hairdo. That was pretty crazy. But yeah, that was the most effort I think I've seen anybody this season put into the hair. So gotta respect from that. And to be fair, I had no idea Reggie Bullock was on this team. I remember him on the Knicks, the Mavs. Didn't know he was on this team. No Boban tonight, unfortunately. No Landale. Remember him from the Suns? Don't really see him out there too much. But yeah, the no Fred VanVleet for the Rockets, and only 22 assists for them tonight. Raptors only 23 assists, and it's funny looking at these bench guys. You can kind of see why they were so like the offense came to a complete halt when the bench guys were out there. And you've got Bruce Brown, 22 minutes, 0 assists. Jordan Nwora, 7 minutes, 0 assists. Jonte Porter, 11 minutes, 0 assists. Grady, 20 minutes, 1 assist. So you're telling me in 31 plus 38, 60 minutes, in an hour, you have 1 assist in an hour. That can't be right. 42 plus 11 is 53. Yeah, 60 minutes. In 60 minutes, 60 in a fucking hour, you get 1 assist. So that just shows. And again, that's what I was saying. Like, you needed a Dennis out there, or like you could have benefited from a Dennis and could benefit from an Olynyk. So excited to see how that looks. But yeah, I mean, that's fucked. I mean, and then you look at the starters. Scottie 8 assists, Barrett 7 assists for him, and then 2, 3, and 2 for Quickley, but Trent and Pirtle. But it just in general, only 23 assists from the Raptors. I think most of them were in the first half, and a lot of them were again Scottie with 8, Barrett with 7. And a lot of those were like them, kind of using each other and Quickley in different situations and benefiting from it. So, yeah, and Quickley and Barrett tonight, they combine for 46 points. So, and the three of them with, yeah. Anyways, that's enough fucking numbers. I'm already losing my mind. Yeah. So yeah, R.I.P. Dennis, R.I.P. Thad, R.I.P. Otto Porter. Who else did they lose? I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. Thad, Dennis, Otto, Kira Lewis. It's a tough one, tough loss. Losing Kira Lewis, Kira Lewis Jr. I believe. It's a tough loss. Yeah. So. Shouts to those guys. But yeah, that's going to do it. Raptors win by 3, and I'm just trying to exit the software. What am I doing here? Okay.